So growing up, I had uncles that were very hairy people. I remember coining the term arm froze when I was just a wee lad, and the way they drank, there'd be mood changes like you wouldn't believe. So naturally, I thought there was a better than average chance that I was related to werewolves. But a Coors drinking werewolf at Westlake doesn't have the same ring to it or the same flair as 1982's An American Werewolf in London. So let's talk about that instead. Very long opening credit scene, but we do get a great, beautiful view of a countryside before we see a truck traveling along a long, winding road, and then two young men riding in the back with a ton of sheep. I mean, there's a lot of farm animals back there, and I bet that just smelled great for them to ride with. This is where we meet Jack and David, two buddies who are backpacking, and as they look for a town to settle into for the night, they have a really great conversation. It's cold out, but fortunately they end up coming upon a small village and a pub with the name Slaughtered Lamb. This was the definition of a record-skipped moment when two of these guys walked into this pub with all these regulars sitting there enjoying their drink. Everybody stopped talking, everybody stopped drinking, all they started doing was staring. Now the two guys sat down, ordered themselves a cup of tea because they just wanted something warm, and eventually they bring something up that elicits a joke from one of the regulars. The mood's starting to lighten a little bit, but they notice a pentangle, which is a 5-pointed star, up on a wall surrounded by candles. Jack makes the mistake of asking about the purpose of that pentangle. Does not go over well. The two Americans feel so uncomfortable with the situation that they wind up getting up to leave, and one of the regulars tells them to stay on the road and beware the moon, lads. Awfully ominous. This scene, though, the way this unfolds, it sort of really draws you in because it lets you know the town's got a secret. They know something these other two clearly don't know, and they're willingly sending them out into a dangerous situation in the middle of the night. In the cold, in the rain. What good could come of that? Even though these two are getting dumped on with rain, they're trying to make the most of the situation. And, this is life. This is an experience. And they're singing and skipping and they're enjoying themselves even though they're freezing. Up until the point, of course, where they hear a very distinct howl much closer to them that they're comfortable with. Now, they decide they want to try to beat feet back to the Slaughtered Lamb, which has to be the first time anybody's ever felt safer in a place like that. The filmmakers here, for me, I thought it was a great decision not to show us what these two guys are clearly seeing out into the night. They see something, it's looking right at them, it's getting closer to them, and they're terrified. Now, we don't see what they're looking at until Jack gets jumped by this animal and just clawed up. Now, David winds up getting clawed up slightly, and the only reason he doesn't get torn apart is because the townspeople show up and put a few bullets in this thing. Now, as David is starting to lose consciousness, he sees a naked man right next to him with bullet holes in him. Now, he could have sworn that was an animal that just got shot. Then he wakes up in the hospital the very next morning. He's in London, finds out he's been there for a total of 3 weeks, and then he realizes, after the doctor tells him, with this dope from the U.S. Embassy by his side, that his friend Jack is in fact dead. David loses it. Does not take the news very well at all. When he's able to sleep, he starts having visions. And the first vision is him running naked through the woods, chasing animals, eventually catching these animals and eating these animals raw. Later on, the nurse that's helping him, he has a vision of him turning into a monster and attacking her. Finally, one of the most extreme visions he has is a group of monsters show up armed with automatic weapons and knives, killing him, killing his young brother and sister and his mother and father. Really horrifying stuff. Now later on, David has a very real, very lucid conversation with Jack, who appears in his room with every bit of the damage that the wolf did to him that night that he died. He explains that he's dead, but he's unfortunately forced to walk limbo until the wolf's bloodline is severed, that being David. David was not killed by the wolf. He only clawed David up. David is sure to turn into a wolf at the very next full moon. The only way he can get to one side or the other, Jack that is if David offs himself. Now David's not a fan of that idea. He believes he's losing his mind, but he becomes, while he's in the hospital, quite taken with Nurse Price. And she's quite taken with him. He works up the nerve to kiss her in the hospital, and from that point on, she's smitten. Now, he gets discharged ultimately from the hospital, and she gives him a place to stay. And this whirlwind romance begins. In that flat, though, where Alex is nice enough to let David stay, another visit from the rapidly decomposing Jack reminds David that there's a full moon in 2 nights and time is ticking away. Again, he insists that David kill himself, but with the lovely Alex walking around in just a t-shirt at that point, David feels like he has something to live for. Now, David's doctor from the hospital decides he's going to travel to the pub where this whole thing happened outside of. And we get more of that outsider treatment. Nobody's willing to talk to him. He tries his hardest. He does manage to get some information from one of the townspeople that goes outside of the pub and draws him back towards the back of the pub to tell him this guy that got clawed up by the wolf, that being David, he's now cursed. And at the next full moon, he's going to transform into a monster. This is hard for a doctor, a man of science, to really wrap his head around, but it's believable enough given what's been going on to at least report back to his nurse, who is falling into a romantic entanglement with the apparent new werewolf. As Alex heads off for work on that fateful day where we're just a few hours away from a full moon, David kisses her goodbye, and then you see dogs in the neighborhood, you see cats in the neighborhood react very aggressively towards him. The use of the song Bad Moon Rising, which I love, was a great choice here, as you see David trying to stay busy around the apartment while Alex is nowhere to be seen. Absolutely out of nowhere, though, David screams out in pain as he's trying to read a book, and he tears at himself. He rips his clothes off of his body. He's rolling around in this apartment living room naked, and the transformation from man to wolf here is one of the most impressive I've seen in any movie or TV series ever. It's a well-lit living room, and most of these transformations, they take place in the shadows or just complete dark, and then all of a sudden they spring out and they're a werewolf. You see the whole thing happen right here, and it was really, really cool, a little unsettling, and I remember being young and seeing this once, and I never wanted to see it again because it was truly scary. Now, as a wolf, David decides he's going to venture into town. He kills a very high-profile couple. He kills a trio of homeless people, showing he does not discriminate against social standing. Finally, he ends the night, though, by tormenting a man on the subway before ultimately eating him. Now, the very next morning, I thought it was very cool how they did his awakening as a human again. He's in a zoo, and all the animals in the zoo are going absolutely crazy at him being there. And the only ones that aren't are the wolves that he is sleeping right next to in their enclosure. I thought that was such a cool touch. Obviously, he's worried about being that close to such a dangerous animal, but they just treat him like one of their own because essentially he is at this point. Alex has been warned about David by this doctor, but once David finds Alex again, the next morning he's bouncing off the walls excited. He doesn't really know why, but he's extremely happy. He's full of energy, probably because he had some really good food the night before, but he doesn't remember anything about what happened. He can't remember why he woke up in the zoo. Last thing he remembers, sitting in that living room reading a book. As soon as he hears about the 6 murders, though, he loses it. He insists, demands that Alex stays away from him. He doesn't want to transform and hurt her, and he can't guarantee that that's not going to happen, so he runs her off. Now, David leaves word with his family back in America that he loves them very much in preparation of killing himself. Now, this is when he sees Jack again, and by this point, this is the 3rd time we've seen Jack in the afterlife. He looks terrible. He looks like something out of Pirates of the Caribbean. Jack waves him into a porno theater of all places, and every horror flick needs nudity, I guess, and this is where we get our nudity. Jack then introduces him to the 6 people he killed just the night before, all of which are in limbo until this wolf's bloodline is severed. Again, they tell him, you have to kill yourself. And then they start suggesting ways he can kill himself. He gets too wrapped up in what they're talking about, perhaps what's going on the screen in front of him, to realize that wolf is starting to take hold of him again as the full moon starts to rise. Of all the places to wolf out, I guess a big screen skin flick is as good as any, and that's what happens here. Now, he kills a couple of more people inside of the adult theater before he breaks through a police barricade and takes somebody's head off in the process. Now, what the filmmakers did here next was very, very creative. The carnage that this furry little bastard caused when he got out in the streets of London was a very welcome sight, but another really cool thing I think they did here was in this movie sort of abruptly. There was a lot of meat left on the bone, so to speak. But you've got mass panic, you've got all the cops just armed to the teeth, and they finally corner this wolf in an alleyway before Alex decides to rush up and try to appeal to David in wolf form. You feel bad for her because her heart's breaking right in front of you as she confesses her love for this savage beast with blood dripping off of his fangs. And he lunges at her. And then, roll credits. She tells David that she loves him because one of the last scenes that David had with Alex before he strictly forbid her from ever seeing him again was he told her that he loved her, and she never got a chance to say it back. So she says it here. The filmmaker's choice of keeping this creature in the shadows for most of the film, even after his first full moon and his first transformation, when he's out hunting the couple, the trio of homeless people, and the guy in the subway, you never see it. It makes you use your imagination and think about what these people are seeing approach them. And I thought that was a really effective way of not only filmmaking, but just scaring the audience or bringing the audience into the movie. Don't spoon feed it all to them. Show them what you want to show them and make them do the rest of the work. I thought that was really well done. The transformation from human to wolf is one of the best I've ever seen. I don't know that I've seen a better one. I might have, but this rewatch was awesome. I hadn't seen this movie in a long time, and I bet this maybe it's only the second or third time I've ever really watched it. Really, really cool. I dug it. I really enjoyed it. For me, this movie is an 8 out of 10. Obviously, it ages gracefully. I only think I've seen this 2 or 3 times. So I'll watch it again. It had a follow-up with American Werewolf in Paris, but we're not going to talk about that one because I think that one's best left in the bargain bin. Bush had a great song on the soundtrack. That's about the extent of my memory of that movie. Here, though, this one's worth watching. So, like an uncle with too much banquet beer, I'm going to fade out. This is Aging Gracefully. I am Matthew Essex. Thank you. I'll see you on the other side. And maybe at the next full moon.